What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Players Championship Week here. Got a new guest. Our guy Uncle T is back. It's been a great start to the year, but now we got Uncle T back in the mix. Excited to hear your thoughts on everything. Uncle T, what have you been up to, man? How's your golf season been to start the year, and what's been going on, man?
Yeah, first off, good to be back on with you, Snyder. Obviously, AP out tonight, but we'll hopefully get him back next week and kind of get the regular crew back here on the Tuesday night show that I'm really looking forward to, again, kind of getting back into full swing with you guys with the golf season. Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy, January, February are usually pretty crazy for me with my, my other jobs and stuff. So, but yeah, full attention now, starting tonight with you guys with golf. I've been obviously playing golf, all year as far as the DFS side, obviously putting some content up, but it's been pretty good. A couple weeks back we hit I hit the with a couple of us with Matsuyama 70-1 a couple weeks ago, and then I was able to get 8-1. I know you got a little boost on Scotty last week. I found an 8-1, and I usually don't like to play generally the guys way up top, in a pretty good field like it was last week. But I did it and was able to, kind of convert on that Scotty. So 2 out of the last 3 weeks for Uncle T, and that feels pretty good, to be honest with you. But no, it's, when we go on these shows, Snyder, the beginning of the year here, it's a lot of fun, right? You get into March, obviously the players now, and we'll talk about it when you get into the course preview, but with it moving to March, it gives us like 5 straight months of, basically a major. Obviously this isn't, but a huge prize purse, for the players, and obviously big contest on DraftKings. And, it gets us right into baseball starting in a couple weeks that, I follow baseball and love the baseball as well. So it's a good time of year. March Madness starting in a couple weeks. So, March is a great time to be a sports guy like we are, or sports guys like we are. And then to be able to make money in DFS, it's going to be a good month for us.
Yeah, for sure. This March to April run is awesome with the players, the March Madness. Augusta's next week or next month with MLB starting. So this is a great. It's not as good as maybe some people don't think it's as good as football, but I think it's right up there. I mean, March Madness, there's nothing like that. And then this event used to be regarded as the 5th major, but not so much anymore with all the firepower gone now, or a good chunk of the firepower is no longer on the tour now. But still a big prize pool here. I mean, we got a big check to be going to someone here this week. We'll kind of dive into this here in a little bit. We'll hit the 10K, 9K, 8K range like we usually do. Throw in some bets here and there. Anything else from you, Uncle T, before we get into this, and I'll give a course breakdown?
No, just a couple things, and before you'll break it down. But with Scotty being 12-8. I know it's been mentioned, and it's clear, though, because we've talked about it on other shows when it doesn't happen. But Scotty being up there at 12-8, I actually love that quite a bit. I love the fact that they price them all the way up like that, and that's a healthy tag. I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot of golfers in the last couple of years be up there at that 12-8 near 13K mark. But I kind of like it, right? He's $1,200 cheaper or more expensive than the cheaper Rory. And as you go down, what you mentioned, with it not being a total field like we're used to, no Rahm, no Brooksy, no Bryson, all those big names that went to live. None of those guys are playing, and it's relative, or it's reflected as we go through this top pricing tier, where we're going to see some guys that are normally a little bit further down the board, right? But based off of those guys not being here, you're going to get some guys that you're not used to kind of seeing in these, either the majors or this one, or some of the big events. You're not used to seeing them really with these, higher price tags. So it'll be interesting to see how we play that. Or how, kind of we differentiate those guys and maybe pick out a couple guys, maybe fade a couple guys that we think are too high. And I do have a couple that I think are a little bit too expensive. But no, just that. And that obviously with Scheffler being up there at 12-8, the looser price tags on DraftKings starting maybe 2-3 weeks ago when they started going all the way down to the 5K range. Clearly, we're going to be able to build teams kind of however we want. It's just a matter of being able to grab a 5K or 6K guy.
Yeah, for sure. We're here in Florida then for the 3rd or 4th events here at one of my favorite tracks here. One of my favorite tracks on tour here, the Pete Dye Stadium course at TPC Sawgrass. This track's going to measure 7,275 yards. There's trouble lurking around each corner on this. Of all 18 holes, there's water in play on every single hole. We saw last week, guys can make some big numbers if they're off on any of their shots here with all this water in play. My guy Knapp, I think he took a 12 on a hole. There were some big numbers out there for guys. Golfers are going to see some smaller greens this week, though. It's going to measure about 5,500 square feet on average. They're going to be rolling at around 12 to 13 on the stip meter. Dye always incorporates some undulated lies, water hazards, blind shots, tough bunkers, multi-tiered greens. So that's what we have to expect here. Approach is king here as well, and I will be weighting accuracy a little higher over distance this week off the tee. So accuracy over distance for me this week. The average width in the fairways here are going to be around 30 yards on average, and the rough is going to play pretty tough here. It's going to be anywhere from 3.5 to 4 inches, and then as the weekend comes around, it's going to be even longer than that. A large percentage of the iron shots can be coming in from 150 yards and in, so keep an eye on the weather as well, as we've seen some pretty big weather tee time advantages in the past. So we need to keep an eye on that leading up to lock, because this weather in Florida can change on a dime, as we saw a couple years ago. Recent form outweighs course history here as well. Some other key stats we'll be looking at this week: strokes gained approach, bogey avoidance, good drives, recent form, and a good short game ability with an ability to scramble. So we got this 10K range up here up top now. We've got 6 guys 10K and up. So we can dive into it here. We've got Scotty Scheffler at 12.8, like you mentioned a little bit ago. I'll let you dive into this first, but we do have that 5K range where it's going to be like last week. It was easy to just jam in Scotty. I locked him on all my teams last week. Not sure if I'm going to fully lock him again this week, but I'm definitely going to be up there. But you can lead us off here on this 10K range. Hovland all the way up to Scotty the Kid.
Yeah, definitely an interesting range for sure, because it's I don't think you and I are going to be in this camp. We're going to play Scotty, but they're definitely, the ownership thing. He's definitely going to get up there quite a bit, and for the higher stakes as well, you're going to have to kind of leverage and figure out how you want to play him. I do think the higher the stakes, right, you probably you don't necessarily need to go all in or not, but you need to figure out if you're going to just go almost all in or overweight, or try to fade. I have heard a couple guys on some podcasts this week already that, they're just going to try to go the other way. I think you might have mentioned, but, there hasn't been a repeat champion. So, the defending champ, clearly Scotty can do it. But, you do have that over, 40 years or so. It hasn't been a repeat champ. So, again, at 12.8, where do you want him to finish if you do lock him? If he doesn't win, where do you need him to finish? It's always that debate. But for me, I'm going to definitely play Scotty. You and I talked about it on numerous shows before. If he could ever get a decent stretch with that putter going, just a decent stretch. It doesn't even have to be really in the plus range, right? Just maybe around the 0, or even if it's just a little bit in the negative, he's going to crush, because his game tee to green is obviously elite. It's number 1 on tour. I like the fact, again, like I mentioned earlier, he's 12.8. Maybe that, along with the ownership, will maybe keep, some of the people away. But no, I like him quite a bit. There's not really much more to say about him. And then we'll talk about it later on with how we can easily fit in Scotty. And even, some of my builds I played with earlier today started with either Scheffler and then going down to like a Zalatoris, Hideki, maybe Homa, Morikawa. A couple of those guys we'll talk about in a minute, but I like pairing him with a couple or one of those 9K guys and then skipping the whole rest of this 10K. So, but to kind of go down a little bit further, Rory, I just, I can't do it right now. I just can't do it. 11.6 is still, in normal when Rory's playing good, obviously that's a pretty good price tag, but I still feel like even though it's $1,200 cheaper than Scotty's just playing so much better golf than him. I mean, he is a past winner here, but he doesn't have – Snyder, he's played 4 tournaments this year, no top 20s. And I just can't do it. I need to see a little bit. Hopefully he can play well, in the next couple of weeks. Maybe we'll be interested in him, at the Masters in a month. But I'm going to be out on Rory. I do like the low ownership. Him and Cantlay look like to be probably the 2 lowest owned in this 10K and up range. The other guy that I'm going to play, I'll get to him next, and that's Justin Thomas. We'll tune in a little bit later in the show, as far as kind of my feelings on him. But he's back to being where we're used to seeing Justin Thomas. You know, he fell down in the low 9K range, maybe even the high 8K range when he wasn't hitting the ball very good. Now he's back. 10-6 is again, I think, a pretty good price tag. You didn't get him at like 96, 97, 9,800 where everybody would have played him. Kind of like that he's up there at 10-6. So I do have interest and will be playing Justin Thomas. And then the other two guys that I will not be playing will be Cantlay and Hovland. Cantlay, I don't know. I hate not playing Cantlay, but, you know, he's kind of had a mixed bag here. And I know that course history here, I'm usually a course history guy. I don't lean on it as much at this course because of, you know, the unpredictable, you know, nature of the water on every hole and things like that. I'm not too much on the course history, but if it's a tiebreaker situation for me, I'll definitely look at it. But Cantlay and Hovland, I'll probably be out on. You know, Hovland's hit a couple of top 10s here, but it feels like he's reverting back to his form he had before he made that big run last year, right? Maybe around a year ago. And then he started, you know, probably spring, summer, really started to play well, obviously won at the end of the year, you know, the big thing. But I'm going to be out on those two. Xander Schauffele is the one I want to listen to maybe what your thoughts are. So I'm in on Scheffler. I'm in on Thomas. The only guy up above 10K that I'm kind of waffling on right now is Xander, but it just feels like he's really expensive at 11.3. And for the extra 13 or 16, 1,500, I think I'd just rather get up to Scotty.
Yeah, for sure. I think early looking for me, I think I'm only going to play one, maybe two guys up in this 10K range. I just like the guys in the 9K much better. I think they have just as much win equity in that 9K range as they do in that 10K range. Cantlay, Xander, they haven't been winners in quite a while. That's a steep price tag to pay for them. Rory's just not playing that well. I'd rather play Scotty. Scotty's minus 200 over Rory in the matchup market, so wow. I definitely like Scotty. I mean, you look at what Scotty's been doing since the start of 2022. He's played 50 events. He's finished inside the top 3 in 21 of those events. He's won 8 times. He's got everything going right now. I mean, and you look at a little more in detail. I know last week Scotty changed the putter there. And you kind of dive into it a little more. You look round by round. How did Scotty do since incorporating that new putter, that mallet putter? Round 1, he lost a stroke and a half. Round 2, gained a half a stroke. Then round 3 starts getting a little better, gained 1.5 stroke round 3. Round 4, he goes nuclear with that putter and almost gained 4 strokes putting in round 4. So hopefully Scotty can keep it going. If Scotty can even putt to a 0, the field, every field is in some serious trouble with him going forward. Just because if he can gain putting or even putt to a 0, there's a very, very, very strong chance he will be in that last group going into Sunday. But definitely going to be well overweight on Scotty. I love what he's doing. Been playing him every week. So I know there's a talk out there. Nobody's ever won back-to-back. Well, that's true until someone actually does it. I mean, someone like back in the NBA Finals, everybody was like, oh, you can't come back from 3-1. And then LeBron did it. So there's still some possibility. And if there was a guy to do it, I think Scotty, the way he's playing right now, is the guy to do it. I do think his ownership's going to get capped a little bit because you start seeing him over 30% and stuff. There are going to be some guys that look to go a different way there. So I think Scotty's ownership will be capped somewhere in that 30 to 35% range for the Millie Maker. But you get in those higher stakes contests and those shorter fields, I mean, he's going to be pushing 50% in some of those, I think. So Scotty is up there for me. And then Justin Thomas is another guy I was looking at. Like you mentioned, I like the price tag on JT at 10.6. They could have easily priced him in the 9K range, like you said. But
you wouldn't have had as much interest, right, Snyder? Right, like me. I mean, if he's like 96, 9,700, he's going to be 25%.
I typically just play the best plays, but I probably still would have played him anyways. But the way he's playing right now, he's rounding back into form. He's been doing really well. He won here a few years ago for Big T when he won that Millie. His game's heading in the right direction too after a rough year last year. He finished 12th or better in 9 of his last 10 events. He did miss a cut as major chalk at the Genesis, but last week he gained strokes across the board with the ball striking down in, gaining 3.5 strokes. Great wedge player. if the wind comes up, we know JT can battle. JT's battled the toughest conditions Sawgrass has to offer, and he did well in them. So if the wind comes up, we know JT can battle that. I think it's Scotty and JT for me. I'll be underweight, if not fully fading the rest of these guys in the 10K range, but I could see it with Xander. He's had a couple of good performances this year. He's had a couple of bad performances and a couple of good ones, so it's kind of a little give and take there. He hasn't
feels like he's way overpriced, right? Like, I mean, he's way up there. Like, that's really high for him, like 11.3. I can't remember the last time he's been that high. And again, I know I was kind of making the argument, we're glad Scotty's priced up, we're glad JT's priced up, but I think they're playing different than Xander. I think JT and Scotty are playing much better than Xander. So I don't want to make the argument for Xander because I don't think he's in near as good a form.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. Xander just hasn't been able to make the putts, and his ball striking isn't near what Scotty's is. So if he's not making the putts, it really weighs him down there. So we can jump down into this 9K range then. There's quite a few options I like in this 9K range. That's why I might just be kind of fielding JT, getting overweight on Scotty, and then kind of mixing in some of these 9K guys because I think there's a lot of win equity in this 9K range. Some of these guys have been playing some great golf leading up. So we got Will Zalatoris, Bill Z at 9.9, all the way down to Cameron Young at 9K. So we got a pretty healthy range here in this 9K range. What's sticking out to you here?
Yeah, just replying to Matty Ice in the chat there, it looks like. But yeah, what's up, Richie Smalls? If you're watching, hit that like button for Snyder and I here. We'd appreciate it. And Snyder, I had Scheffler in my one and done last week, so I did good there with getting Scotty out of the way. But I got a nice win, moved me way up the leaderboard on the one and done. Yeah, I don't know. I usually don't use him in places like that, but hey, it ended up working out last week. But yeah, like you said, you mentioned this range, and it is a really good one. And another interesting way that, it's all game theory, like we always talk about. It's always, especially this week, it's do you want to go in on Scotty or you don't? If you somehow, Snyder, don't, like say you don't want to play Scotty or you just want to take a chance and just fade the 12.8, you could easily make a case for 2 or 3 of these guys in the 9K range and start. No one's really going to probably do that. You're going to start your lineup with one of these guys above 10K for the most part. And a way to maybe get a little bit different and unique would be to start with 2. You can maybe get 2 of these guys, maybe 3 8 guys, 8K guys and a 5K guy or whatever. But I just think it's fun to kind of try to build around where you think maybe other guys aren't going. But not to get too far off the path there. But again, this is a good range. So starting with Zalatoris, when he started the year, coming off the injury in 2023, no one kind of knew where he was going to be, how long it was going to take him. He was 7,900 at the Genesis in February. Last week, he was 8,900. This week, he's 9,900, right? So his price tag just keeps going up and up and up. And I think I'm going to stay on board again one more week. He's playing just really good golf. And I think I'm going to kind of ride the hot hand. Again, he hasn't had the best success here. He hasn't been poor. T21, T26, he had a 73rd. That 73rd might have been a miscut. But I think I'm going to keep riding with him here. I like him here. The ownership will probably be the highest owned in this group. But I do like him. My smash guy is going to be Hideki. Now, I was just looking at Hideki. Obviously, the injury, the back last week kind of scared some people away, including me. Before tee off, he ended up being fine. The only case I can make against him this week is if you somehow thought he wasn't healthy. I mean, his form's there. He's played well here in the past. He's, the course does set up really for good ball strikers. He hits it pretty good off the tee. Like, there's nothing not to like about Hideki. So, again, unless something comes up between now and Thursday, I'm going to play Hideki for sure. Could be a core play for me. We'll have to see how his ownership will be, maybe 13, 14%, somewhere around there. Wyndham Clark might be out on old Wyndham. T2 last week. He kind of flirted around with the lead there with Scotty and them guys late on Saturday, before Scotty caught fire. Again, he feels a little bit overpriced at 9,700. I think I'll probably pass on our boy Windham. Max Homa, like him quite a bit. Seeing about 10% ownership off of T8 last week at Bay Hill, T6 here last year, T13 the year before. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Max Homa contended on Sunday. Would not be shocked at all. Probably out on my guy Jordan Spieth. You know I'm a Jordan Spieth guy, but I do like kind of the low ownership angle. If you did have interest in Spieth, I'm seeing him sub 10%, maybe 7 or 8%, but I won't be going there. Morikawa, you're going to love to hear this. Love Morikawa. I'm going to be way overweight on Morikawa. If we can get him at 9 or 10%, I'll be ecstatic. 5 starts so far this year. He does have a couple missed cuts, but he's got 3 top 19 finishes in the other, in the other events. Could be my one and done this week. I'm kind of going back and forth between him and who is my other guy? And Zalatoris. Was either going to use Zalatoris or Morikawa. I haven't quite decided, but I do like Morikawa quite a bit. Again, it could be in my core. It just depends on if I'm going to go up and use Scotty or not. Ludwig Ober. I can't play all these guys. He's definitely, he's a first timer. He's been in good form. I'm just going to take a chance that, 13%. I'm going to take a chance maybe that first time around this track, maybe he doesn't have the success. So I'll pass on him. The other guy I'll play down here in the low 9Ks is Sammy Burns. Last week he closed with a 78. He was in contention, closed with a 78, but I love the price tag here. 4 top 10 so far this year. And he's a guy that I think, suits this course okay. Maybe not the best, but I like how he sets up here. And I'm going to take a shot. I know a lot of people are going right back to Lowry again, T4, T3. He found some form last couple weeks. 9,100 just feels still a little bit steep, even though he's been playing well. I'm going to take a chance and maybe fade Lowry, and I'm going to fade Cam Young. So to kind of recap, I love Matsuyama and Morikawa, Homa, and then Burnsy, and then probably some Willie Z. So again, with only playing 2 guys above 10K, I feel like we can get in on a few more of these 9K guys in our pool.
Yeah, for sure. There's 10 guys in this 9K range. I'm going to be overweight on 4 of the guys. There's 4 guys I really like the most here. Not counting Morikawa. I always play a little bit of Morikawa. If he's going to be that low, I can sprinkle in 15% and get overweight on him. He's just not playing the best. I mean, he played good the first round last week, and then the second round he comes in first tee shot, and in the second round goes straight left, duck hooks it out of bounds, and then it just went all downhill from him. But always will be in on Morikawa. He's one of my favorite golfers. Had a great run with him a couple years ago. Was a very profitable run. But Bill Z is my favorite guy in this range. 9-9 Zalatoris. I feel like he's underpriced. I think Zalatoris could be in that mid 10K range, like where you see like some of those guys like Xander and Cantlay are. He's just playing so much better than those guys right now. I'm just going to keep riding Zalatoris. I've been playing him for the last 3 or 4 events. Hasn't been able to close one yet, but he's led on the weekend the last 2 events. Hasn't been able to close, but he's getting some great shots on goal, and the win is very near, I think, for him. So I'm going to be right there on him. His ball striking numbers have improved each of the last 4 events. He's gaining just over 8 strokes total last week. The putter's been there for him too. So definitely like Will Z. I know he's going to see some ownership. He could creep up to – there's a potential where he could creep up to 20%, I think. But I'm seeing him right around 16 to 18% right now. But I think he could catch some steam. But I think a lot of guys could jump off late as well, like we see sometimes. So definitely in on Zalatoris again this week. And then Hideki, I'm right there with you on Hideki. I think he's a strong play. He's been just elite form coming in off of 12th last week. Had that win at Riviera where he torched the field on Sunday. Hideki's been known to torch this track too. During COVID when that event was canceled, I think he shot like 62 that first day the event got canceled. He was probably well on his way to at least a podium finish in that event. So I'm going to have some Hideki there as well. Sammy Burns, he's a general this week. I like Sammy Burns at 9-2. Injured with some elite form. Has a couple of wins here in the state of Florida as well. Has been playing elite golf with really only that one bad round, which was last Sunday. It kind of got out of contention, and then the round just kind of snowballed on him where he registered a 78. He almost hit the 80 spot, but I'll give him a pass on that round. Looking at the last 18 rounds, minus that, He's averaging 67.7 for a score. The putter's been great for him as well. We know he's strong off the tee, so I'm in on Sammy Burns. And then I'm going to go back to Lowry. I was right around the field on him last week. He's been playing good in this Florida swing, a fourth and a third. He's got some decent course history here. No course history is a lot here at this event, but he's right there. He's 8th, 13th, 35th in his last 3 trips here. He's playing some great golf. He talked about some changes he made with the short game, too, coming in. Changed up how he was approaching the ball and how he was chipping the ball around the green. Looks much better for him, too. Back-to-back weeks gaining at least 4 strokes approach, too, and holds some solid course history, like I said. So I'll be in on Lowry. Top 4 for me in this 9K range is going to be Bill Z, Hideki, Sammy Burns, and then Shane Lowry. I'll have some Morikawa in there as well, but I think we're on a couple of the same guys here in this range, which is good to see. And then you can kind of lead us off here on this 8K range. We got about 10 to 12 more guys here in this 8K range. As these ranges are kind of narrowed off a little bit, these 9, 8, 7s with the 5K ranges in. What's shaking off to you here? 8K range. What's your favorite options here? There's a couple guys I like in this range.
Yeah, we got Mark Green in the chat. Of course, usually he's saying would set up for Matt Fitzpatrick, but wouldn't back him. Yeah, we'll talk. I'll talk about him. Here to start, Mark. Since you asked the question, I'm going to be out on Fitzy. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the $8,200 price tag is definitely a little bit enticing. I mean, it's definitely a cheaper. He's usually in the mid to upper 8Ks and a lot of these larger field, better field events. 8,200 feels cheap, but I think it's relative to how he's been playing. He's missed 2 of his last 3 cuts. Hasn't really performed here well other than once in the last 5 years. He did have a T9 a couple years ago, but again, he's going to have real low ownership. So if you wanted to take a chance that you can, he can find it in 1 week, he's definitely going to have low ownership, but I'll be out on Fitzy. But going back towards the top of the 8K range, I do like a couple guys here. Jason Day. These guys are going to be pretty low owned. We're going to have Corey Connors, probably the highest owned in this group. I love Corey Connors quite a bit this week. I'm going to be way overweight on Corey Connors. But going back to the top, Jason Day, just solid. 3 top 10s and 6 starts this year. Again, I'm not putting everything on course history, but he's been really good. The last 4, 5, 6 years here, only 1 missed cut. I'll be way overweight at the 7 or 8% on Jason Day. And one of the guys I think is a little bit mispriced. He's 40 to 1 to win the golf tournament is Tommy Fleetwood. And he's low owned. So I don't know if I'm missing the boat here and somebody, I'm kind of falling for it, but low ownership. He's got a 40 to 1 tag to win the golf tournament at 8,800. Feels like he could be in that low 9K range, maybe $200-$300 more expensive. So I do like him. Flop leg as well, coming off the miscut last week at Bay Hill. I think he might have shot an 80 in the last round, I think. Let's see.
He was on 80 watch, I think. I don't know if
he did. Yeah, he shot kind of like that. Let's see what he's got. But you know how that goes though. Once they're kind of out of it, you don't know how. I didn't watch his round, full disclosure, but he did shoot an 80 in the second round last week. But again, love the flop leg here with Fleetwood. I'm going to be out on Sahith. Russell Henley's an interesting one because again, he's 40 to 1 as well. I know you and I look at the Vegas odds probably more than most, even when we're building our DFS lineups, but at 8,600, 40 to 1, I think, is what he was at late in the day here on DraftKings. Been playing pretty good, right? T4 last week, another guy that's, I don't know. I think you could pencil him in maybe for a mid cut and maybe a T25. I don't know if that's going to be good enough for you at 8,600, but I think I'll be interested there. Out on Finau. Sung J M's an interesting one because he was really struggling with his form quite a bit heading into last week, and he kind of found it a little bit. Finished T18, closed still with a 74 with the T18. So I don't know where to go on him. I'm thinking about maybe putting him in my pool, but he might be one of the guys I'll decide on kind of late. Corey Connors is, again, a really good play for me. Like him quite a bit at 8,300. He'll carry some ownership too in this group. Probably the top guy. Him and a couple guys I'll talk about here in a minute. But Like him quite a bit. This course seems to really set up really well for Connors. He did miss the cut here last year, but a solid price tag here for Connors. I set out on Fitzy. Benny On's a guy, again, I'll kind of wait to hear what you think. He's been playing pretty good. He's off a T8 last week. Man, it just feels like he might have a stinker coming up in him, with this one here. He hasn't been great at Sawgrass. I might be out on Benny On. I'm out on Tom Kim. And I like Siwoo Kim. Siwoo Kim is one of the guys I like with Connors and Fleetwood in this group. They're probably my three favorite. Siwoo Kim at 45-1. So all the way down there at 8K, and he's 45-1 to win the golf tournament. Seems to play well, at this course. Could be a core play for me. He's 7 for 7 and made cuts this year with 4 top 25. So like him quite a bit. Menwoo, I'm a little unsure on what I want to do with him either because he's 50-1 at 8K as well. So good odds to win for him. I don't really have an opinion on Menwoo on this Tuesday evening, but that's kind of where I fall. So Fleetwood, Connors, and Siwoo Kim, and I also like me a little bit of Jason Day.
Yeah, I like that. I think we got some same deals going here. Definitely always like playing some Menwoo on die courses. Solid course history coming in, so I'll be in on Siwoo as well. And then Menwoo, I think he's going to be in that 7 to 10% ownership range this week. I think he's going to kind of see a reduction in his ownership as the week goes on. People got burned kind of by him last week. He didn't kill me. I mean, I locked him and Scotty in a bunch of contests. I basically broke even. I think I won. I netted profit in the $10 18 max, and I lost a little bit in that $5 tournament last week. But, yeah, it was fine. The big move in this range is Corey Connors is matched up against Benny On, and it's been a pretty big move in Connors' favor. It opened at minus 125, and it's now listed at minus 155 for Connors over Benny On. So definitely in on Connors this week. I mean, the ball striking just continues to be awesome for him. He just needs to get a couple of spike putting rounds to go, and he'll be up on the top of that leaderboard coming into the weekend. Has been right around that 20th to 30th place finishing spots, but he's lost strokes putting in 9 of his last 10 events. It's been pretty bad too with the putting, but as bad as it's been, it's actually been getting less as bad the last 3 events. So he's been losing like 3 strokes, 2 strokes, 1 stroke. So it's slightly getting better, the putting there. So if Connors can even break even or just lose like a half a stroke putting, I think he can be close to the top 10 coming in on Sunday. So I have a lot of interest in Corey Connors at 8,300. I'm probably off Fitzpatrick as well with you. I just haven't been playing him this year, and I don't see any reason to really jump on now. So I'm going to stay off of Fitzy. Some of the other options in here, Fleetwood, I may have a little Fleetwood depending on his ownership. I think he's going to be low owned. He'll probably be around 5 to 7%, I think. So it'll be pretty easy to kind of sprinkle in some Fleetwood to get at least with the field or slightly above it. And then Henley, I'm going to play a lot of the chalk up above him with Zalatoris and Scotty. And if Henley kind of gets steamed up, I think he's a guy that could get kind of steamed up. I think he could maybe approach 15% or so as the week goes. And if that happens, I think I would just get off of Henley and just move more on to Connors and some of these other guys. I do have a little conviction on Tom Kim, just as an interesting GPP target this week. He's not going to be highly owned at all. It's going to be easy to get overweight on him. He comes in somewhere around 4 to 7%. The one thing that caught my eye on him was he's with Paul Tesori now. He's got Paul Tesori on the bag, looping for him, who was a member here at Sawgrass. He won this event with Webb Simpson in the past, too. So maybe Paul Tesori can kind of help Tommy Kim get around this course. So I'll have a little bit of interest on Tommy Kim there. A good price tag on him at 8,100. So I'll have some of him as well. Connors is the main guy I like in this range. I think I'm going to just keep plugging Connors in there and just hope the putter kind of comes around this week. I'm going to be off Finau, off Sahith, off Jason Day. Just mainly, I like jamming up those guys, the 2 guys in the 10K range and those 4 guys in the 9K range. So really not going to have too much room in this 8K range for me to really get overweight on too many guys. So Connors is my number 1 guy. And then we can dive into the 7K range. And with the 5K range, there's not too many options here as we usually would see. Only about 20 golfers here in this 7K range. Some really good options. So I think there's a lot of good value on this slate, which will help us kind of jam in, Scotty. So you can dive in to the 7K range. What's shaking out to you? I know we had a guy, Jack Fisher, talked about Harmon. I do like Harmon. What's your thoughts here on this 7K range?
Yeah, Jack brings up a couple good guys. I like both of them guys, Homa and Harmon. I mentioned Homa earlier. Harmon at the top of this 7K range, it just feels really good. You know what I mean? Safe, 7,900's I think a fairly cheap tag here. He's got experience playing here, obviously. Comes in decent form, not great form, but decent form. Obviously has played well here in the past, a couple top tens. Keegan Bradley, again, good ball striker. These top three guys, Bradley, Harmon, and Hoagie. You know, Hoagie we'll get to here. Well, we'll just go ahead and talk about Hoagie because I do think he's going to come in well above anybody in this top range. And he sets up really nicely if you can stomach the ownership. And you mentioned earlier that you just kind of, for the most part, play the best plays, especially your cash team, probably for sure. You know, I think Hoagie could get up there quite a bit, but he literally looks like a slam dunk play. So I do like all three of these guys at the very top range. I really do. I'll be playing quite a bit of them. I think Bradley will be the cheapest in there. You know, again, yeah, like I mentioned, SWH, I agree. If you can stomach the ownership, he's going to be really chalky. There's no doubt. But in golf, we've got 6 golfers, right? You can play chalk. You can play 2 or 3 chalk guys for sure. You just got to try to get different somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with playing chalky guys, even a couple of them. You just got to differentiate your lineup. You can always still leave salary on the board if you want. I don't know really how much salary I'd be willing to leave on a week like this week with so many top end guys up there. But that's a topic we can talk about maybe later on. Harris English, really kind of out on him. He's in decent form, but you know, I don't know about English. He feels a little bit too expensive. I think Eric Cole could be a sneaky play up here. You know, only 6%. If you can try to get off of Hoagie and Harmon a little bit above him and go down to maybe a Cole or even an Adam Scott on a flop leg. You know, Adam Scott burnt me a little bit last week. He burnt probably a few people at Bay Hill last week because he looked like a really good play last week and just didn't play well. But you got a flop leg situation with him, a guy obviously that's played this course a lot. So I don't mind maybe going down to a couple of those guys. Adam Hadwin. Now, Hadwin feels like, in my mind anyway, a similar play as like a Hoagie or Harmon, and he's cheaper and he's going to carry less ownership. And he kind of let people down last week. So Scott and Hadwin are 2 guys I like kind of in the mid 7K range here that they kind of let us down last week, right? They let us down, or they at least let me down because I played both of them. And Hadwin's had some pretty good success here. Again, I'm not leaning solely on course history, but if I kind of like the form, maybe another reason, you know what I mean, he's playing okay. Maybe he just had one bad week, and then you can lean on the course history to kind of put you over the top, and the price tag and the ownership. So I'm in on Hadwin. Now down below 75 and below, I think guys like Keith Mitchell is a fine play. He'll carry a little bit of ownership as well in this range, maybe coming in or the second or third highest in this range. But Killa Keith, I don't mind him a little bit. Bezadenhout and Griot, I think have been playing good golf. I don't know where I'll fall on them. I'll wait to see what you think on those 2 guys. Eric Van Rooyen, he's a guy that I probably play more than most, even when he wasn't playing well. I just like him. It feels like I kind of gravitate to EVR more than most. I kind of like him here. Really good form the last 3-4 times out. And again, low price tag, 7,300. So I like him quite a bit. A guy that I don't think you'll be on, but I'm just going to have him in my pool because with the unpredictability of the weather, like you mentioned at the top of the show, Snyder, with the weather, the rain, you don't know what's going to come in. You could have everything planned out perfectly on the weather draw, and then somehow they get a 4 or 5 hour delay, and then it totally flip-flops everything. But Ricky Fowler, and I'm not saying I'm all in on Ricky, but I think I'm going to have he's going to have no ownership, and he tends to, you know, show up here and there, and you're not paying a healthy price tag, 7,300. He does play well in the wind. So I got a little bit of interest there. Our boy Jake Knapp, I think you might have mentioned him earlier. I don't know if you did or not, but T3 at the Farmers. He won in Mexico. T4 at the Cognizant. It's going to be a tough fade. I know it's the first time out for him, but 7,100, I might have a share or two of our boy Jake Knapp. And then the other guy in this range that I think is just, it feels like he's really, really cheap is Cam Davis. 7,000 even for Cam Davis, and a guy like, that has his talent and ability. T6 here last year, but he's been playing some pretty good golf on, on some of the events coming in here. And he just feels he's got top 15 or top 20 upside at 7K, in my opinion. 90-1 to win the golf tournament at 7K. And then down there at an even 7 as well as Justin Rose. I can put Justin Rose in there. I don't really have a big opinion on Justin Rose, but it feels like he's pretty cheap too if you wanted to get a nice cheap value guy in there.
Yeah, for sure. I'll probably be on Jake Knapp again. I think he'll be under 10%. Started out strong with him. He was a soldier at the Farmers where he finished third, and then we had an outright on him when he won that event in Mexico. And then he followed it up strong. Kind of ran out of gas a little bit last week, but I think he can battle strong here. I'll play some of him. It'll be easy to get overweight on him if he's around 6 to 8%. Like I think he will be somewhere around that range. I do like Tom Hoge a lot in this range. I'm just going to keep playing him. I was high on him last week. He's going to be popular, but it's just the chalk I'll eat. I'll try and get different elsewhere. Like you said, you can play some of those guys together. If you have like one or two lower owned guy under 10%, it'll help differentiate yourself. And the 6 to 6 here will probably be low like normal as well. So it'll kind of settle itself out. The iron play has just been too good for him. He actually leads the field in approach entering this event, slightly ahead of Scotty even. He's lost nearly 5 strokes putting in the first event, losing in the last 6 events. He lost 5 strokes putting and still finished T12. He was top 10 at both the Genesis and Pebble. I think I would just rather play Hoge than some of the guys in the 8K range. So I'm in on Hoge. I'll just try and get different elsewhere, like I said. So I think he could be 20, 22% potentially, but that's fine. We'll get different elsewhere. And then Harris English, he was a soldier last week. He played great leading up to Sunday. Wasn't the best on Sunday. I think he shot 4 or 5 over, ended up tied for 21st, but he's got good recent form heading in. Course history hasn't mattered here much, so I'm fine with writing that a strong recent form. He'll be under 10% as well, so I like English. Eric Cole is a guy that I'll keep playing. He was a guy, he busted his chalk at Honda, but he bounced back solid last week for a top 21 or finished T21. 21st or better in 5 of 8 events. He was top 30 here last year as well. I think he'll be right around 5% this week, so it'll be easy to get overweight on Eric Cole. So I'm going to have him in the pool. Then I'm going to go right back to Adam Scott. Adam Scott was very hurtful last week. The only soldier not to make the cut last week in that short field, but he busted a chalk, and I think he'll be right around 10% this week as a result. He lost over 5 strokes with the short game last week. He did well putting in the 2 events prior to that, so I think he can bounce back with the short game this week. So I'm going to have Adam Scott back in there as well. Some of those other guys you'd mentioned I like as well, but I think Killer Keith Mitchell is another guy that I want to be overweight on this week. He's been striking the ball great beginning of the year, and in all 7 events has gained 7.2, 10.7. and then 4.4 strokes total in the last 3 starts. He's starting the putting. He's putted pretty well too. He's putted pretty well as a whole on these surfaces. His game's trending in the right direction. 9th, 19th, 17th in the last 3 events. He was top 10 at the Amex back in January as well. I think he's a strong value at only 7,500. And then there was one of these matchups that I was looking at. It's actually moving against EVR. I like EVR. Grillo opened minus 130 against EVR, and now he's minus 160 versus EVR. So there's some some steam coming in on Grillo versus EVR in the matchup markets. I think they're both solid options here to add into your pool down there. Hadwin 7,500, solid option as well. I think I do prefer Keith over Hadwin if it's a 1v1, but I think they're both just solid options. I think we covered that 7K range pretty well. The 6K range, we start diving into these value guys. I think there's there's a good amount of guys down here that we can find to throw in our lineups with like Scotty and some of those guys up top. You want to play 2 or 3 9K guys, come down here. It really helps out. What's sticking out to you here? 6K range.
Yeah, real quick before we get to the 6Ks, Snyder, SWH has a question in chat. Like he's saying, maybe to get contrarian in the middle, leaning towards mid-tier bills. I kind of talked about that a little bit in the earlier segment. If you wanted to kind of skip the whole 10K and above, I'm not sure what you're talking about mid-tier in relative to this tier pricing. I wouldn't start anything not in at least the 9K range. I would definitely not start anything all the way down under 9K if it was me. But you could definitely grab 2 9K guys, 2 8K guys, and feel really comfortable. Or you could go 3 9K guys, and I think you still have around 7,000 for your other 3. So I don't mind it. It's going to be hard to get off of the Scotty teams. And again, I like Justin Thomas quite a bit up top, but I definitely understand it. And I do think it would be contrarian. Snyder, do you have a kind of a take while we're kind of even on the topic?
Yeah, I think like in SaberSim too, you can create rules, you can create groups. Say if you're not playing Scotty, you want at least 2 or 3 of the 9K guys, you can group those 9K guys together or throw a couple of 10K guys in there like JT or something and be like, if no Scotty, at least 2 or 3 of these guys. You can set it in ranges and stuff. There's a lot of flexibility with SaberSim. It's such a great product out there, and they got the Sims too for golf. That's actually been pretty solid. So that's kind of the way I would treat it. But I definitely will have some teams that I think I will play 3 guys in that 9K range on a few teams. Maybe might be a 3 max team or a single entry team, but I will look to get different on some teams and not just solely lock Scotty this week, but I will be overweight on him.
Yeah, I like that. And he's saying, he started his team with Homa, and I like that, SWH. Yeah. I like that. Starting with, you could do a Homa and more. I like Morikawa a lot. So, I could even go Homa, Morikawa, and even down to Burnsy and still, grab 3 of those guys. So, I definitely don't mind it. So, good question there for sure, though, because on a week where – you got Scotty and some heavy hitters up top with Thomas and some big popular guys. Again, Snyder and I are kind of taking some good fades up top, but they're going to carry some ownership. All those guys are going to get a little bit of ownership. So I actually like the call there. But going down under the 7K range again, in the 6K range here under 7. This is usually where we're trying to finish our teams, and obviously with the pricing that DK has come up with here the last, how long has it been, Snyder? Because again, I've been playing it like maybe 3 weeks or so. They've kind of included the 5K guys, I think, right? 3 or 4 weeks.
There's been a few events. Yeah,
I definitely like it. I really do. I haven't really heard of it. I talked to Big T a little bit about it. I think it definitely allows us the flexibility to jam in and play more. Not necessarily this week, but in some other weeks to play the stars and scrubs a little bit more. And it's been kind of working, but a few guys that I'll pick off here, Doug Gim and Austin Eckroat are going to be the 2 guys that are going to carry them, at least from what I'm seeing here. Gim's really around 13 or 14% at 6,800. He's that good of a play. It's going to be a tough one to fade, but I think I might try to fade it. I mean, 4 top 15s or 16s in his last 4 starts. He's played decent here before, miscut last year, but has got a T6 and a T29. So I can see why he's carrying some ownership. So I'm going to have to see closer to lock kind of where his ownership, if he kind of starts to get even further up there, I'm going to fade him. I don't know that I can play that kind of ownership for a 6,800 guy, but Denny McCarthy, he's fine. He won't carry any ownership. Our boy Matthew Pavone, 6,700. I don't mind him here as well. First timer. So I don't mind him, though. He's been playing really well. Won at Torrey Pines, T3 at Pebble Beach. Came back to earth a little bit the last couple of weeks. We kind of figured that, right? He didn't make the cut, but finished well down the field the last couple of events. I've heard some noise about Billy Horschel, even on the other show with Wiley and Andy. I think they kind of like Billy Ho a little bit. And, he plays well in Florida. Obviously, he's coming off a decent showing at the Cognizant. Cheap price tag, I get it. No, I don't have any issues either way with him. I guess the price tag alone would make you feel like you should have maybe a little bit of interest in Billy Horschel here. Hasn't had the best success around this track, would be the only deterrent. But so I don't know where I'm going to be out on him. Brendan Todd sets up nicely. I like him here in my in my overall evaluation here. Good value off at T6 at Bay Hill. after he opened with a 74 in the first round. So, a couple over par in the first round and then battled back to a T6 last week on a tough course. I like Brendan Todd quite a bit. I mentioned Austin Eckroat. Again, it feels like Eckroat could have been in that high 6K or low 7K range with the way he's been playing. Coming off his first win at the Cognizant a couple weeks ago, made the cut last week at Bay Hill. But again, he's going to carry a little bit of ownership. Aaron Rye is a guy I kind of don't normally play. Our boy Two Gloves, all right? Is he our guy Two Gloves, Aaron Rye? Or is he the double condom play?
Yeah, Two Gloves, right? Yeah, he's got the iron covers and he wears two gloves.
Yeah, so but I like him quite a bit as well. And again, looking at odds, I just checked this right before we went on. He's 80-1 on DK Sportsbook to win the golf tournament somehow. Aaron Rye, and he's 6,400. So I'm seeing 6, 7, 8% on him. So I kind of like that quite a bit. And then going down a little bit, I'll just run off a couple names without. I'll let you get in here. Novak, Glover, and Putnam all back to back there. Novak will carry a little bit of ownership there at 6,400. And then down below, in that low 6K range, Adam Svensson's kind of let me down a little bit. I've played him the last couple of times, and he's kind of not been very good. Ryan Fox is a guy I typically will play here and there at a cheap price tag. But other than that, I really don't have a whole lot of interest. Maybe some Kevin Yu at 6,100, but my interest is more towards the middle to top half of this range. Yeah, for sure. I think there's some good options in here. You listed a bunch of them in there. Some of the guys I like is I'm gonna probably still play Gim. Like in Saber Sim, you can go and create a group with like the high. If you're playing like 3 or 4 guys that are going to be high owned in that, you can create a group in Saber Sim, say max 1 or max 2 of those guys per lineup, so you don't get too many filtered in there together. But Gim will be in the player pool for sure. I think the ownership's rightfully there. I mean, the strong ball striking this year has the putter working for him as well. Has finished T16 or better in his last 4 starts. Owns a 6th place finish here as well in 22. So Gim will be in the pool for me. I'm going to go right back to my guy Pavon this week as well. I think the course could set up a little better for his game. Even though he didn't play well last weekend, I think he can kind of shake it off here and come back strong this week. Won't take much to get overweight on him either. I think he'll probably be right around 5%. The iron play wasn't that good last week, but he did lose 2 strokes approach last week, but he lost strokes at the Amex as well, and then bounced back that next week and won at Farmers and was 3rd at Pebble the next 2 weeks. So maybe last week was just a little down week for him, and he can bounce back strong again this week. I think the iron play will be much better from him this week. He's just been playing so good at golf. So I'm going to be back on Pavon there at 6,700. I think he could top 30 here in this event easily, and that would be well enough to pay off his tag. Novak's another guy that could see double-digit ownership here. Should be still pretty easy to get over on him. 3 straight top 10 finishes, gaining at least 7 strokes total in each event. So Novak's the guy I'll be looking at. He'll probably go into that group, though, as well, if he does potentially get up to 10% or higher. Putnam's another guy I'll look at again this week. He was solid for us last week. And then Rio and Yu were matched up together in the matchup markets. Rio is slightly favored over Yu, but I think they're both strong targets this week. So I'll have both of them in the pool as well. And then, I don't know. I could get Davis Thompson in the pool there. He's fine. But I don't see much else here. The guys you mentioned are fine there. Aaron Rye, Patrick Rogers, 6,400. I'll probably have a sprinkle of him. I won't take much to get overweight on him. He's probably one of those guys for the $5. I just sprinkle in there at like 5% or something, 3 to 5%. Should get overweight on him. I think he'll be like right around 1 or 2% owned, so won't take much on him. Anything down here in this 5K range? There's actually some guys I like down here in this 5K range. I think we can make a lot of things work down here to get Scotty and some of those other guys in there. Yeah, I definitely have a few down here, Snyder, but I'm going to be honest with you. Kind of as you were talking, obviously I did some research all day today and kind of grabbed a couple guys I wanted to mention for the show, but I think I'll probably be able to land for the most part. and grab a couple of those 6K guys if I need to kind of maneuver things around to get Scotty in. But yeah, there are definitely a couple guys down here. And obviously when they're under 6K here, they're either going to be in poor form, poor history, or both, right? You know, I mean, you're not going to generally see guys that you're going to really, really love, but a couple guys that do stand out that I could play, like KH Lee at 5,800, feels like he at times can pop and have a good tournament. The interesting one for me in general, just for the namesake only, Thomas Dietrich. So just a couple weeks back in Mexico, he was 10-1 at Mexico in a couple weeks back. Now, obviously, he's off back-to-back missed cuts, but he goes from 10-1 in Mexico. Clearly, the fields are night and day, but I'm just saying, relative to 10-1, he's 5.7K. So, and he did miss the cut here last year, but it just feels weird to have a guy that was so far up the board on DraftKings just a couple weeks ago, and he's 5,700. So that name just isn't, just again, on name alone, feels like it's really, really cheap. Sam Ryder, you know, occasionally we'll play him at a cheap price tag. He doesn't look too bad, 5.6. Brandon Wu, don't mind him. Charlie Hoffman will pop here and there and has played pretty well a little bit the last month or so. And then going down the board quite a bit. And again, these are going to be very, very low-end plays for me. Like Lee Hodges, I think at 5,400 isn't bad. Bryce Garnett at 5.3K. And then maybe even like S.H. Kim, I think you and I have played from time to time, 5.3K. I mean, these guys are dirt cheap. You know, you get them to make a cut and finish, you know, T40, you know, it's pretty good at that price tag based off of what you're going to be able to get in. So those are just a handful of guys that I like underneath 6K.
Yeah, for sure. There's some guys down here that I definitely do like. There's actually a build that in that little tiny $3 20 max. I usually like to lock 3 guys in that and try and get myself as many outs if those 3 can smash. There's a build here that I actually like for that. It's Scotty, Ben Silverman, and then Nico down there. If you lock all 3 of those, you have like 8.7K left to your last 3. So you can try and just have so many outs on the top of that build with 8.7K left. Ben Silverman's 5.5K. It's been a Corn Ferry Tour guy I've been high on this year. Still remains low priced here. I mean, he was top 20 at Sony, Mexico, and Honda. I think he's got great upside for 5.5K price tag. And then Nico is another guy that's trending upward off finishes of 15th, 21st, and 24th in his last 3 events. We targeted him at the Honda here in Florida in this 5K range, and he paid off well for us there with that top 25 finish there. The putter and irons have been heating up for him too, so he just helps jam in those 2 cheapies with Scotty. I think is a fun way to play that $3 20 max if you kind of treat it as one tournament like I like to. I had success doing that a couple years ago. I think I finished like 1st, 4th, 5th, and I had like 4 or 5 entries in the top 15 with the win, so that was fun. I think Hubbard's a guy that can make cuts in this range too, so I'm going to have Hubbard. Hubbard was favored in the matchup markets. Seamus Power is another guy playing solid golf. I like to target him on these types of tracks too. Holds a couple of top 35s here, so if he could do that at that price tag, that would definitely pay off. Sam Ryder and CT Pan or a couple other sprinkles they may have down here with solid upside. But I think my favorite 2 guys is going to be Silverman and Nico. I think I may go into that. I know Michael in the chat was wondering if we could hit on FanDuel. I can pull that up here quick and just give some brief thoughts. Any final thoughts from you in that 5K range? Or
no, but I did forget. I did totally forget about our guy Silverman. I did kind of look at him earlier, and then I didn't kind of mark him down for the show, but I do like the Silverman call quite a bit. So, and even a guy like a guy like Garrick Higo, you know, 5,600. Again, I know we're trying to just make a small case to grab a couple of these guys, right? But you know, he's capable, right? He can make a cut and kind of get up, you know, 35th or 40th. You know, I don't think none of these guys have upside to T20 or anything, but I kind of don't mind the Silverman call, and then maybe Garrick Higo wouldn't be another bad play.
So I pulled up the FanDuel pricing here. It's usually a little softer over there. They've got Scotty Scheffler priced at $12K flat. It's really easy to jam Scotty in on FanDuel, so I like Scotty up there. And then I'm really kind of off of these 11K guys. JT's 11-1. That's a good price tag for him. He's got better odds than some of the guys above him. Sammy Burns 10-9 would be a guy I would look at there. And Zalatoris is 10-7. So Zalatoris would be a guy I would look at strongly there. Zalatoris also on Circa. Circa is one of the sharper books, I think. And anyone can basically walk into Circa. They'll take any amount of money for the most part. And Circa has Zalatoris at 19-1 earlier today, and it's up to 20-1 odds now. But that's the third best odds on Circa for Will Zalatoris. So definitely like him, like I had said. And then kind of going down the pricing here a little bit, I think Shane Lowry is the guy that jumps out at me at 9,900. I think that's a great price tag for Lowry. That's like equivalent to like an 8K price tag on DraftKings, I think. So that's a great value on Lowry at 9.9 there. And then some of the other guys that just kind of jump out at me odds-wise, looking at it. Harris English is 9.1. It's a solid price tag on him. Kind of going down a little more. Brian Harmon's 8,600 on FanDuel. That's like a criminally underpriced for him. He's got great odds for that price tag. So I think Harmon would be like a cash lock for FanDuel. I would look at there. Kind of going down a little more. I can hit on that more in Discord too. Andrew Novak's in the 7K range. He's a strong option. Our guy Silverman 7.7 there. So those are the guys that I would kind of target there on FanDuel. Nico is all the way down at 7.3 on FanDuel. I think that's a great price tag for him too. Do you have any thoughts on FanDuel, or we can kind of get into the winners here, Uncle T?
No, you hit on the ones. I pulled it up right when you did as well, and I saw the same ones that you did. When you can see them kind of back to back on our site, on the website where you can get them back to back, you can almost do. You can almost go down and look and see who the value guys on FanDuel will be relative to what their price tags are on DK. And you're right, you can typically jam in maybe one extra stud on FanDuel and be able to make yourself a lot better team on FanDuel. I don't typically play a ton on FanDuel, so full disclosure on that, but I do like the ones that you hit on.
Yeah, for sure. We can kind of get into our winners, and we're just over the hour mark, which is a good spot. We can do give who you think's going to win the event, maybe a mid-range guy, and then a punt play that you like a bomb.
Yeah, we're good. I think we should probably throw out Scotty maybe, because I think both of us like Scotty. So he's 5.5, 6-1. I don't think we should take him. So I'm between two guys. So I'll let you guys know. I've already got bets outrights on JT, Morikawa, and Homa. Those are the three bets up top that I've already placed on DK. Up for the show, I like them all, but I'm going to go with JT. I think he gets it done for the second time. I think he's been trending in the right direction. I think he's going to get his second Players Championship. 22-1 on DraftKings. I'll take him as my guy up top. And boy, I got a couple in the middle here. What middle? Like maybe 40 or 50-1. So we'll go with we'll go with Siwoo Kim. I do like Corey Connors a lot at 50. Actually, Connors has got a higher price tag or a higher odd. So we'll go with Corey Connors at 55-1. I wouldn't be a bit shocked again if he gets off to a hot start on Thursday and gets what's that?
He gets that button on.
Yeah, I like him quite a bit. And then a bomber down, I guess we'll consider down over over 100. I'm going to go with my guy EVR, Eric Van Rooyen. Been playing golf with a lot of confidence, 110-1. And I just think, again, if he can get off to a hot start, he's been trending and he's been up near the top of these leaderboards. And some of them, they're not clearly the field that this one is, but, his confidence has been soaring this year. So EVR at 110. And we got a question from Corey, but we'll wait till you get your winner, Snyder, and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can hit on that here in a second. My winners this week, without Scotty, would be Zalatoris. I'm just gonna keep knocking on the door there with him. I think he's gonna get that win here soon. he's been in contention the last couple of weeks. He generally plays these tough courses really well too. So I'll take Zalatoris at 33-1 is the best number I can see at FanDuel right now. Is 33.
That's a good number. That's a real good number. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, for sure. And then kind of going down a little bit, I may join you. I'll take Hoagie at 70-1. I'll take him as my mid-range guy. Tom Hoagie 70-1 at FanDuel right now. And then for like a punt play, a bomb for me would be Keith Mitchell at 100-1. I think he's got good upside, good win equity for 100-1 odds. He's 80-1 at a couple of books, but at FanDuel you can get him at 100-1 still. So those would be the three guys that I go to. And I'm just pulling up the weather right now as well. It's still a little early on Tuesday. A lot of things could change as Wednesday and Thursday come around. But just off first look, Thursday looks to be pretty low in the wind. I'm seeing under 10 miles an hour all the way through 7 p.m. on Thursday. And then Friday, it looks like we could see a little more wind in play. It's going to be right around 6 to 10 miles an hour sustained with some gusts up to 20 miles an hour Friday. So we could potentially see like a PM, AM, where AM's going to have the softer greens, less wind. And PM Friday could see a little more wind, but something we need to keep an eye on. Any thoughts from you on that, Uncle T?
Yeah, not from what I'm seeing right now. I'm looking at the same thing you are. I don't see anything right now. But again, this weather down there changes on a dime. And you know, your best laid plans. I've had it happen to me 2 of the last 3 years at the Players. I'll tell you, 2 of the last 3 years, I thought I was dead on what I wanted to have happen, you know what I mean, as far as the weather, and it did not play out like that. So it totally changed. They went into a delay the 1 year for a couple hours, and then it got totally thrown off. So you got to expect kind of the unpredictable a little bit down here. If we get 2 good days of weather Thursday and Friday, which it's possible, you know, you mentioned the weather or the wind isn't supposed to be really, really high, at least as of right now. I think I read something out on Twitter. This means absolutely nothing, but it was something I thought was interesting. I think 12 of the last 14 Players winners has come from the AM Thursday AM draw. It means absolutely nothing, but I think somebody put it out there, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's not much you can hang your hat on. Did you see that as well?
Yeah, I seen that. I was kind of wondering if a lot of times I think they like to get the bigger names late Friday so they can get more TV time late Friday, which that could have a little correlation to it. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely not using that as gospel when I'm picking my teams this week because Scotty has a late tee time Thursday. So I'm definitely
there you go
for that. But yeah, it's just something to keep an eye on too. We'll have it all covered in a Discord. I'll have the playbook up here momentarily with the cash chart up tonight. But I think that's about it. I haven't asked you guys yet to hit the like, subscribe. Uncle T did once, but if you haven't already, please do that on the way out. Uncle T, any final thoughts from you as we kind of wrap this thing up?
Yeah, first off, it was good to be back on a show. It's great to kind of get back for me anyway into the golf season with hanging out with the guys in chat. Appreciate everybody out there for hanging out with us tonight for about an hour. And then the playbook, you do a great job on the playbook, and then the showdowns. You know, there should be some great showdown contests this week. Obviously, everybody's going to be crushing the 4-day slate, but hey, don't forget about those showdown slates. These guys have been doing a great job, giving us some good plays, and you know, there's money to be made there as well. So keep an eye on the playbooks for the showdown as well. And good luck to everybody. It's just crazy. We got 4 weeks for the Masters, and it's, you know, it starts this week with the Players, gets everybody's juices going, and it's going to be a good spring.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun event here. We appreciate you guys for watching as always. But for Uncle T, I'm Snyder. We're out of here.